I'll turn off too.
We just hit over 1,000, y'all, on Twitter. Oh my gosh. I'm not one to get excited about most, let alone by some numbers and participation and stuff like that, because that can go out of the way. But baby, what? Oh my gosh. It's not even 4 minutes and we're at 11:54. Oh my gosh. What? Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. You shut the fuck up, Lisa. How about that? You shut the fuck up. Goddamn troll. I'm gonna see if I can block your ass. How about that? Thank you, AU Dreams. And I'm sorry out of line with Lisa, but I don't expect that. I'm just cheering myself on. Oh my gosh. After my day. Ah, no, not yet, Dana. And welcome. Hey Mo, how you doing, girl? Girl, I had to dig that Underground Railroad. Who has been digging? Hey Mo. Mo, you good? You straight? Well, Lisa, you gonna listen. Wherever this number lands, I'm posting it. Yes, I am. Mhm. I keep a game plan. Okay. No, no rush, no rush. I got you. Y'all, it is so much going on with these celebrities and celebrity like celebrities. um, no, I haven't AU Dream. Uh-uh. I've checked the other news networks, and they look like they are assembling it. I forgot what state they're in. I don't know if I can get their paperwork or not. I have what's that guy's name? The Abercrombie and Fitch guys. I have his paperwork. I have all Diddy stuff. His civil lawsuits too, and I mean it comes in every day. Brian Enton. Okay, let me go look. Thank you.
Okay, we'll get started in a few moments.
Oh, it
We have
does say that.
three speakers. Today will go first. Afterwards, we'll
He
have a
is
couple
saying
panel
that.
questions. We've given a lot of folks sit downs the last few weeks, so we've covered that. But
Wow.
you will have a few opportunities, but not a ton, because too many folks today.
Let me follow him. Thank you so much for letting me know that. We have to get the formalities on the record. Yeah, I saw it. Thank you so much, AU Dreams. Thank you. Wow. I mean, but look, it just goes to show you how much perseverance can eventually turn into something. Because Lord knows they've been trying to get out of jail since they've been put in there, right? I mean, I remember this happening when I was real young. And he had the attorney with the curly hair. I forgot what her name is. And I remember her being such a back then such a polarizing figure back then, right? And yeah, yeah, they. Oh my gosh, I thank you so much because yeah, that's exactly what he posted. Mm-mm-mm. Wow. This is going to be unbelievable. This is going to be unbelievable. I just can't. I really don't know what. I don't know if Cat Williams jinxed the celebrity, the industry of celebrities or what have you. You know the different, because of course we have celebrities in different industries, right? I don't know if he jinxed these people or what, but it has been nothing but nothing but one. I don't call it a takedown, but it has been like one thing after the next with the celebrity here, celebrity there. It's like, oh my gosh, what is the deal, right? And they're literally going back in time, I mean, which is their rights to do because of how the system of doing crimes is set up, right? Like, how many people get caught as soon as they commit a crime? How many times potential evidence show up soon as a crime is committed? So there has to be a statute of limitation, and there has to be also something in the law which will allow you to indict a person. They've been on, let me see, probably, well, I clicked on about 17 minutes ago. So you know it takes them a minute to get everything arranged in the conference room. Yeah, so they all, so due to the statute of limitations and mechanisms like those that will allow prosecutors to do their job, hey, it is what it is. I mean, this is going to be, oh, I don't know. And it was, this is a case that I followed early on, and then I just stopped following it for a long while. So I don't know if they uh, are agreeing to a new sentence since the Court of Appeals, or is this something they are doing after the Court of Appeals have turned them down or what have you? But they're doing it just because maybe they felt like they served enough time that they've been rehabilitated. Well, I definitely can't foresee them resentencing and letting them out. Right. But Mo, so let me ask you this if you're able to answer. I know they have been in the news, probably like been seeing their faces pop up the last week or so. Is it because there was another what if there was a right, it kept the focus on. They kept the focus on. And here's another thing, right? They kept an intelligent conversation going with regards to them. Now, which I'm gonna look it up. Hold on. It's easy for me to look it up. Yep, it is a resentencing. Um, Expected to exit court to resentence the Menendez brothers. Please don't ask me for no dollar. I'm not in the mood to play these little games. Okay, let me read what it says. It says, and I'll read it until they pop in. Uh huh. Um, there isn't a statute of limitations on murder. Yeah, but I wasn't just speaking on murder. I know that. I wasn't just speaking on murder. I was speaking on crimes in general, right? So that I wasn't just speaking on murder. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, there is no statute of limitations on murder. Right, right. So no, what I was saying is what I was speaking on, like all of these different crimes that are going on. I was really aimed at the sex trafficking allegations with all these celebrities and how they are going back in time. That's what I was really talking about. I wasn't talking about this case that has already been decided decades ago. Yeah, I was really speaking in general about how they are allowed to go back in time, and because of the statute of limitations, because the indictment says, all the rules say that it is when the crime is founded, that's when you can start your imaginary clock, right, with the four statute of limitation. Then, even with that, then that imaginary clock can be told, which means stop, pause for a brief moment, if something else arises, right? You see that often happens after, during the time someone is sentenced. I'm sorry, someone is found guilty and they're going through the appellate process as well as going through other post conviction remedies, which will toll the statute of limitations clock, right? Which is an imaginary clock, but that the judge has control of. All right, you good? You good? Okay, no podcast and advocacy groups need to change the way the world sees those sorts of things. People started to ask, well, what about men? And use this case as a means to facilitate a conversation. That conversation started after Santoya Brown was pardoned under similar circumstances. Remember that? But yeah, I remember that. I remember Santoya Brown. And then, she came out, looked like she did a few interviews and then kind of went away. But Let me read what they said because I left um the Menendez brothers back in the weeds because they were focusing more on the fact that they was wearing toupees and stuff back in. That's I can't do this. The LA County District Attorney to announce decision in decades old Menendez brothers murder case Thursday. Says Los Angeles County District Attorney. His pop up. George Gassion is expected to announce his decision Thursday afternoon on whether to recommend resentencing in the case of Eric and Lyle Menendez, who were convicted of murdering their parents more than 3 decades ago. Gassion previously said he is reviewing the case and expects to make the decision by the end of October, but on Tuesday, he told CNN's Jake Tapper he planned to do so by the end of the week. Gassion plans to make his announcement at the news conference. I need to know what was this as a result of. Okay, the hearing stems from a defense petition citing what the Menendez brothers' attorney argue is new evidence, as well as a recent California law on resentencing, in which the court can take into consideration sentences in comparable cases. The judge can also consider whether the defendants were victims of psychological or physical abuse. Okay, whether they are rehabilitated and whether they are a danger to society. Okay, so I just said, we don't know if they're going to take into account rehabilitation or what, why they being resentenced. So check this out, right? So it seems as if they petitioned directly to the court for them to make a decision, and it's not as a result of something that's stemming from an appeal. And they are citing a bunch of mitigating factors, as well as they arguing new evidence. So let me see, did they run a new evidence in the appeals court, appellate court? Oh, they filed. Okay, they took it back to the court. Okay, got it. So I saw. All right. So they filed a habeas corpus, right? Which is a 22. In this case, it's a 2254, which means it went directly to the back to the court because this is a state case. Okay, so that's what happened. It's not as a result to an appeal. Okay, an appeal is different. An appeal is a direct attack, right? And a 2254 or 2255, if it's federal, is a collateral attack. All right. So they went right back to the court. Got it. So I didn't have to read that whole article. Fully. Let me see. It says so. It's supposed to be 1:30 LA time. So what? That's 5:30 um Eastern Standard. So it's 1:30 LA time. They're 30 minutes late. Thank you, AU Dreams. AU Dreams, honey, is updating us. Wow. Mm, mm, mm. So by being a collateral attack, right? You can bring up new evidence, it a bevy of things, right? And the good thing about collateral attacks, right, is that you can argue things that wasn't on the record. It's pretty much like a new case. So you know, I'm not sure. I don't think so, but I don't know if R. Kelly would receive any relief under the appeals. I'm pretty sure he would, but I don't think he probably won't receive any relief under a um, a habeas corpus, right? It's just like if you have a habeas like this, right? You have new laws that came out. He has new evidence. I'm talking about the Menendez brothers, right? That makes a habeas corpus petition a um, to a court. That makes that petition, it looks a little more inviting, right? Where you'll be like, okay, this is something new, and it could be an argument that they're bound by law to examine it. Look at the petition and pretty much see if there is a real case in favor of the defendant, right? When you're dealing with a collateral attack, by way of habeas corpus, most times attorneys are going, excuse me, after things that are considered constitutional violations, right? And as we've discussed several times over and over and over again, right? Constitution is considered mandatory law. Constitution could be considered mandatory or primary law, but most likely it's mandatory law, which means that it must be followed. So that's going to override primary law and secondary law, right? Primary law would be like penal codes, right? Statutory law. And then you got secondary law, which would be like your common law, which would be case law, aka also known as case law. All right. Someone also said that some of the brothers' family sitting up front. I'm assuming the woman with the walker. Oh, let me see. Hey, purple, purple. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be hard either way for him. I don't know, but I'm just pointing out because I know that a lot of them are really dependent upon the habeas corpus, right, to be the saving grace in the R. Kelly trial, or that Trump would pardon him. And I went down the list with Trump and Biden. I didn't even bother Kamala. I didn't bother her because I know she does. She wouldn't pardon someone for those type of allegations. So. Oh, there you go. Oh, it must. Oh, here we go. We got something.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And before I begin speaking, I want to also introduce some other people that are here with me, and hope I'm pronouncing the names right because I've seen handwritten part of it. But I have Maria, Menendez, Menendez, and Ms. Karen Benamol. Also with us here is Brock Longster. He's the assistant head deputy for the post litigation and conviction unit, and Nancy Surveyor, who is the deputy district attorney in charge of the resentencing unit. Let me begin by telling you that this is a case where we've had many people in this office spend a great deal of time reviewing the case. I have to tell you unequivocally that we don't have a universal agreement. There are people in the office spent a great deal of time reviewing the case. I have to tell you unequivocally that we don't have a universal agreement. There are people in the office that strongly believe that the Menendez brothers should stay in prison the rest of their life, and they do not believe that they were molested. And there are people in the office that strongly believe that they should be released immediately and that they were in fact molested. I have to tell you that after a very careful review of all the arguments that were made for people on both sides of this equation, I came to a place where I believe that under the law, resentencing is appropriate, and I am going to recommend that to a court tomorrow. What that means in this particular case is that we're going to recommend to the court that the life without the possibility of parole be removed and that they will be sentenced for murder, which, because there are two murders involved, that will be 50 years to life. However, because of their age, under the law, since they were under 26 years of age at the time that these crimes occurred, they will be eligible for parole immediately. The teams that have worked on this, on the resentencing side of it, have spent literally probably hundreds of hours by now looking at this case. These cases were originally presented on the habeas side of it, which I'll explain in a moment what that is, last year, and then the request for a prosecutor-initiated resentencing occurred earlier this year. And there have been people in this office working in these cases from the very beginning, as well as many other cases that we have. The reason why I'm here today and why I came in front of all of you about 10 days ago is because there was a more recent documentary about the case that again brought a tremendous amount of public attention. And we know there have been other documentaries, so this is not the first, this is a more recent one. And frankly, our office got flooded with requests for information. And even though this case was already scheduled to be heard in late November, I decided to move this forward because, quite frankly, we did not have enough resources to handle all the requests. And one of the things that I thrive to do in this office is to be very transparent in everything that we do. In this case, we review the prison files. And you have to understand that the way the process works, when you're talking about a sentence, a resentencing under the law, it really focuses not necessarily on what the original crimes were, but it focuses on, has the person been rehabilitated, number one, and number two, can they be released safely into the community? Under that rubric, since I've been in office, we have resentenced over 300 people, including 28 for murder. Only 4 have reoffended. If that was a regular recidivism rate in this country, we would be the safest nation in the world, but we know that it's not. In fact, somewhere between 40 and 50% of the people that go to prison reoffend and get rearrested. And that's why we have so many problems. However, when you look at the case of the Menendez brothers, you see 2 very young people. One was 19 and the other one was 21 when they committed this horrible acts. And I want to underline, they were horrible acts. There is no excuse for murder. And I will never imply that what we're doing here is to excuse that behavior, because even if you get abused, the right path is to call the police, seek help. But I understand also how sometimes people get desperate. We often see women, for instance, that have been battered for years, and sometimes they will murder their abuser out of desperation. And I do believe that the brothers were subjected to a tremendous amount of dysfunction in the home and molestation. But they went to prison for life without the possibility of parole, which meant that certainly under the law at that time, they had no hopes of ever getting out. They could have done what many other people do, which is basically said, you know what, I'm here for the rest of my life, so I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to misbehave, I'm going to join gangs, I'm going to live the life of the prison. But they never did that. To the contrary, even though I think that they engaged in a different journey. A journey of redemption and a journey of rehabilitation. And often the people that begin their journey of rehabilitation and redemption in prison is often very internal in what they do. And one of our lawyers pointed out this today, is usually the path is people try to further their education, do things for self-improvement, which the brothers have done, by the way. But it's more unique or less usual, I guess, when people not only do that, but they also begin to engage in ways to make life for others better. And in this case, the brothers have their own time, creating groups to deal with Haru trauma, creating groups to deal with other inmates that have physical disabilities and may be treated differently. Even in one case, Lyle negotiating the conditions that they live under during prison. And all this was done by 2 young people, now they're not as young, they had no hopes of ever getting out of prison. They have been in prison for nearly 35 years. I believe that they have paid their debt to society, and the system provides a vehicle for their case to be reviewed by a parole board, and if the parole concurs with my assessment, and it will be their decision, they will be released accordingly. I must underline, however, this case will be filed in court tomorrow. The final decision will be made by the judge. Court has to agree with my conclusion that they deserve to be resentenced. It is very possible that there may be members of this office that will be present in court opposing the resentencing. And they have a right to do so. And we encourage those that disagree with us to speak, and the court is the appropriate place to do it. We certainly feel we're very sure not only that the brothers have rehabilitated and that they will be safe to be reintegrated in our society, but that they have paid their dues, not only for the crimes that they committed, but because of all the other things they have done to improve the life of so many others. So, again, we will be filing for resentencing tomorrow. We're seeking that they would be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole, as opposed to life without the possibility of parole, which is they currently have. That means that they would have 50 years to life because there were 2 murders. But because of the age upon which they were convicted, under 26, under current law, that means they're eligible for youthful parole. I think there is also important to have some introspection today, because I think that often, for cultural reasons, we don't believe victims of sexual assault, whether they're women, whether they're men. We saw in our first trial, which, by the way, they were tried twice. The first trial hung, meaning the jury could not come to a conclusion, and in fact, about half of the jury wanted to convict them of manslaughter, which, if that were have been the case, they would have been off prison a long time ago. And then there was a second trial, and then they were convicted of murder with special circumstances, which led to the life without the possibility of parole. But it's salient to understand that our own implicit and sometimes explicit bias around sexual abuse and sexual assaults often leads us to severe injustices in our community. And I want to speak to those that are victims of sexual assault now, whether you're a man or a woman. Know that we're here for you. If you're a victim of sexual assault in this community, and by that we're talking about LA County, not just LA City, you can come for help. Whether you're prepared to prosecute or not, we will be here for you. We have services for you. And if you're prepared to move forward with the prosecution, we will evaluate it as we do any other case. And if we believe that the evidence is there to present a credible case in front of a jury that can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, we would proceed accordingly. You do not have to suffer alone. You don't have to keep it to yourself. And help is here unconditionally. I'm going to say a few words in Spanish because I know there's tremendous amount of interest from the Spanish media, and I know that there are going to be other speakers today, and then we're going to open it up for questions. Primero que nada, quiero dar las gracias a todos por estar aquí hoy.
There you have it. LA County District Attorney George Gascon saying that he believes Eric and Lyle Menendez have paid their debt to society, serving nearly 35 years in prison, and that they should be released accordingly. By that, he is recommending resentencing to the court tomorrow, filing that motion, hoping that they will get life without parole removed from their case and they will be sentenced to murder. He says that a murder charge would be given 50 years to life in prison, and given the fact that Eric and Lyle Menendez committed these crimes under the age of 26 at the time, that they would be eligible for parole immediately. That is the announcement made by LA County DA George Gascon today. So he will be actually entering this in court tomorrow. So a big decision here. Obviously, a judge will make the final decision in all of this. And George Gascon flanked by members of the Menendez family, some getting emotional as he was making that announcement. Behind him, you can see the members who have been fighting for this, supporting this, members of the family. And Gascon saying that the two men, Eric and Lyle, the brothers, have been model citizens behind bars, helping other inmates, negotiating for their conditions in prison. They have obviously, by their behavior, he says, have been on a journey of redemption and rehabilitation. And that is why he is offering to make this claim in court tomorrow. Again, deciding to resentence Eric and Lyle Menendez. So let's go to Christine Devine, who has been listening on the phone to all of this as it's been playing out. Christine, what do you take away from all of this?
Sandra, this is a wow and wow to hear this out of the mouth of the district attorney. Now, we've been talking about this being a possibility that Eric and Lyle Menendez would be resentenced and that they would possibly be home for Thanksgiving, per their attorney, Mark Garagos, who was on our 6 o'clock show with Marla, saying, I hope to have them over my house for Thanksgiving. That was a shocker to hear that. It made it seem so very real. And there you heard the words right there from DA George Gascon. He says, my office is divided on this. Some people believe that there was molestation, that there was dysfunction in the home. He says others do not. He goes, I believe it, that there was molestation in the home. Now, really, I think this is going to take Los Angeles by storm, because a lot of people have been watching this case due to the new documentary, which is worth a watch. The show, the series on Netflix, there are a lot of new eyes on this case. Some people never lived through this era. And you could probably get more insight from Christina Gonzalez, who covered this case back in the 1990s. And just to hear this news from the district attorney, he's going to ask for resentencing, is really quite a shocker, but not, because we've been covering it. And one thing that also stood out to me, he said his office has resentenced 300 people, 4 have reoffended, but 300 people have had resentencing under this district attorney. Sandra?
Yeah, that was something that stood out to me too, Christine, that, 300 people resentenced, 28 for murder and 4 actually reoffended after that. But he says that is a good statistic at this point, all considering. But I do want to mention that Nathan Hochman, the challenger in the DA's race, given the backdrop of all this, election is just 2 weeks away, and George Gascon is facing this opponent right here. They released a statement, his campaign, saying about this decision, questioning the timing of this decision just days before the November 5th election. And Hochman is a former federal prosecutor, obviously running as an independent against DA George Gascon. And in his statement, he says, quote, DA George Gascon received the Menendez habeas corpus petition in May 2023 as a request, and yet he has waited just days before the election. Let's listen into this woman right now.
Seated. Joan Vandermolen is here, Kitty's sister, as well as Diane Vandermolen Hernandez, Kitty's niece. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Today is a day filled with hope for our family. We are here because District Attorney Gascon has taken a brave and necessary step forward by recommending a resentencing for Lyle and Eric. The DA's decision reflects the truth that was hidden for so long, and I am grateful for his leadership in making this choice. We stand united in our hope and gratitude. Together, we can make sure that Eric and Lyle receive the justice they deserve and finally come home. Thank you to District Attorney George Gascon for his courage and leadership. This step gives us all hope that the truth will finally be heard and that Lyle and Eric can begin to heal from the trauma of their past. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Maria.
Yeah.
I believe Jose Menendez is going to say a few words.
This is the niece of Kitty
Oh, you're gonna
Menendez,
say, I'm sorry.
Joan Vandermolen.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you for coming. We are here today because District Attorney Gascon has taken a brave and compassionate step forward by recommending resentencing for my cousins, Eric and Lyle. And we wish to offer our deepest gratitude to DA Gascon. This decision is not just a legal matter. It is a recognition of the abuse my cousins endured, and we are grateful for the DA's leadership in putting justice over politics. We know this wasn't an easy decision, but is the right one. This is about truth, justice, and healing. It is time for Lyle and Eric to come home. And I ask all of you to join us in this fight for justice. We stand united in our hope and in our gratitude. Together we can make sure that Eric and Lyle receive the justice they deserve and finally come home. Thank you again to District Attorney George Gascon for his courage and leadership. This step gives us all hope that truth will finally be heard and Eric and Lyle can begin to heal from the horrors of their past. We hope this will also shed light and increase awareness and help others who have been victimized by sexual violence. Thank you all so much for being here today. We are grateful for everyone's support.
Is there anyone else speaking?
No, that's it.
Okay. Okay. And I apologize. I'm reading notes here and I'm trying to understand all the notes. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain, so you go tomorrow, you file a case for resentencing, then what happens after? Are the brothers going to be there tomorrow? And when is the role of the parole board going to come in?
Right. And you know what? I'm going to actually have the people that are handling the case walk you through all of it. The brothers will not be there tomorrow. The role of parole board comes later. But Nancy, why don't you walk everybody through?
Okay.
Yeah. What is it?
So what we'll do is we'll file our.
Say your name and your title.
My name is Nancy Thaberge. I'm the deputy in charge of the resentencing unit. This is Brock Lunsford, assistant head deputy of the post-conviction litigation division. So what will happen is tomorrow we will file the actual petition requesting resentencing with the legal arguments and accompanying exhibits as to why we think it's appropriate. It's just a filing. No one's going to physically be in the courtroom. From there, we'll also serve the defense with our motion and our paperwork so that they'll have their copies. And from there, we will coordinate with the defense to set up a court date with the court so that the petition can be heard. Now, whether or not that's a setting or a hearing will be decided between us and the defense and the court once everybody gets an idea of what we filed. Then from there at the hearing, the defense can either decide to have the defendants, the Menendez brothers, physically brought into court. They can ask that the individuals appear by video or audio WebEx, a kind of a Zoom participation, which we all kind of adapted to because of COVID. And then from there, we will do the hearing and submit all the written and legal and oral arguments and any evidence that needs to be admitted at the time, and then the court will rule at that point. But we don't have that court date yet because we're just starting the process tomorrow. But it's our intention to have that go forward before the habeas, because if the judge grants it, that may impact the defense's decision to proceed on the habeas. So we're gonna try it just as a matter of economy of time to stack it one before the other.
Now, have the brothers found out about this in real time, or were they told about this beforehand, or what was their reaction? If they were?
No, this was.
No, this is actually the family was only invited to come. They were not aware what the final decision was until a few minutes ago. The brothers may be actually seeing you guys on TV or social media, but no one knew other than a very small number of people in this office. And by the way, I should tell you that actually the final decision was just made about an hour ago.
After the judge ruled, if the judge ruled in favor.
Right, then it goes back to the prison system, and then the parole system takes over that. That's correct.
Would there be a parole or probationary period? Would they have to live in a halfway house, or simply be released if they're allowed to be released?
You know, those are really completely entirely up to the parole board. Place, we'll try.
What was the factor that made the final decision? You said the final decision was just made. Was it the letter? Was it the Menudo confession? What was it that put you over the top to make?
No, what it was is I was evaluating the arguments that were being made within my office, both pro and against the release.
DA, can I ask you?
Hold on, I had it.
Calls from
Yeah.
people that.
I'm, you have made resentencing a cornerstone of your tenure as district attorney here in Los Angeles. There are some people who have accused you of using this very, very highly publicized, clearly case to use it for politics, given how close we are to the election. What's your response to people who have been making that claim?
There's nothing political about this. We have resentenced over 300 people, including 28 for murder. And we will continue to resentence people in the future. And that's all I can tell you.
But DA, question. But
Yes, sir. Excuse me, please. You're interrupting.
Everyone's interrupted. I'm just wondering how you're bid for re-election.
Yes, please. Yes.
Could the brothers be home by Thanksgiving?
I don't know the answer to that.
Why did you decide not to go with the reduced voluntary manslaughter?
That was part of the process that I was still going through up until a couple hours ago. I don't believe that a manslaughter would have been the appropriate charge given the premeditation that was involved in the murders. I believe that these were clearly murders that were premeditated. Now, the motivation, that's where, differences of opinion come up, but I didn't think it would be appropriate to go all the way down to manslaughter.
DA,
Yes, ma'am.
is your bid for re-election?
Would you please stop? I am not going to talk about re-election, okay?
Okay. So
If you want to talk to re-election, go outside. We'll talk later. Please.
Relax.
It's a fair question.
No, it's not.
It is a.
I'm sorry, you're interrupting, sir.
Be respectful.
Please.
¿Qué va a pasar mañana después de que presenten en la corte un documento?
Pues depende, como estaba explicando la abogada, la encargada de esta unidad, la Corte probablemente va a señalar otro día donde los dos, la defensa y nosotros podemos ir y habrá una evaluación de la evidencia. Si hay alguien que se opone a esta moción que estamos, a este proceso que estamos iniciando, también la Corte va a poder oír todo eso y la Corte toma la decisión final.
And there you heard LA County District Attorney George Gascon taking questions after saying he wouldn't be taking questions after his announcement. And let's go back because he is continuing to take questions from reporters.
The potential successor undo what you're about to file.
I don't think so. Once it's filed, it's up to the court to take it from there.
You mentioned
Yes, I'm sorry.
In a parole situation, obviously you've got a policy of since you're obviously supporting the push for release here. How would that work with people from post-litigation, resentencing, they go for the parole to argue for the release? Or that?
No. We have a policy that we only send victim services advocate if the victim or the victim's family wants that support. We don't send lawyers to our parole boards to relitigate a case. The parole board is fully aware of what the initial crime was, the crime that led to the conviction. Their work is primarily to evaluate whether they're rehabilitated and safe to be released, and that will be the way here.
Can you break down the timeline for us? Can we expect a hearing by the end of the year?
Nancy, we don't.
I'm hoping to get it on calendar, depending on the defense preparedness. I'd like to see it go to hearing probably within the next 30 to 45 days at the most. There's not much to argue.
Okay, there's one more question, please, but related to the case, not to elections. If you want to talk about elections, we'll do that.
Related to the case,
Yes, sir.
what would you like to say right now to Eric and Lyle Menendez?
What we like to say to them, and it's we, because it's not a, I made the final decision, obviously, but we have a whole team that worked on it. We have a family here that wants to be reunited, is that we appreciate what they did while they were in prison. While I disapprove of the way they handle their abuse, we hope that they not only have learned, which appears that they have, but that if they get reintegrated into our community, that they continue to do public good. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, LA County District Attorney George Gascon wrapping up his announcement recommending the resentencing of Eric and Lyle Menendez. That will be certainly something the office plans to do in court tomorrow. And with that, that would mean life without parole. That initial sentence would be removed. It would be sentenced to murder. The two men would then face 50 years to life in prison. And since the crimes happened under the age of 26 at the time, the two men, Eric and Lyle Menendez, would be eligible for parole immediately if a judge decides to go with the recommendation. Of course, we'll have much, much more today at 4 o'clock on the early edition of Fox 11 News. Of course, we do have Christina Gonzalez in the room right there where the announcement was made. We'll get reaction from her as well as an intensive report and also legal analysis of this bombshell announcement. Well, again, much more news ahead at 4 o'clock. Stay with Fox 11 News. Alex Michelson and Christine Devine will have a complete and entire wrap-up. Thanks for joining us. We resume to programming.
Well, there you have it. So he didn't go into, he said he was going to explain the habeas and all this stuff that was going on or what have you, but I'll talk about it just briefly. Us on the YouTube side, we've discussed all things legal with regards to the law dealing with several cases, but just with regards to this particular case, right? So apparently, okay, there is a habeas corpus that has been filed. You file those either with the court that sentenced you, or it can also go to the Supreme Court. So in this case, it's with I believe it was the court that sentenced him, maybe. I'm not sure, but so it's either between one or the other, and that habeas was most likely due to the new evidence that was unearthed, right? And apparently it was unearthed about 7 years ago or something like that. And I'm putting legal expertise over what I read earlier, all right, to put it together and what he just said, okay? So I didn't read this part, I just read this part about this up in the Menudo, right? Some of you guys might not be old enough to remember Menudo, which is a boy band, a singing group, but I do. Apparently, one of the boys in Menudo said that the father molested him, okay? And, and I think Menudo, wasn't that the same group that Rick and Martin was in? Hold on. Was that the same group Ricky Martin living underneath that loca? Isn't that the same group? Hold on. Hold on. Hey, I might be doing too much. Hold on. Hold on. Yep, he was in Menudo. I know I ain't crazy. He was in Menudo, child. So anyway, So apparently they wrote a letter and it was discovered. How long ago they said this letter was discovered? I tell you now. It said that his office is evaluating allegations from a member of the boy band Menudo who said he was molested by Jose Menendez, a and a letter Eric Menendez wrote to a cousin 8 months before the murders detailing his alleged abuse. It says Eric Menendez's cousin testified about the alleged abuse at trial, but Eric Menendez's letter, which would have corroborated the cousin's testimony, wasn't unearthed until several years ago, according to Garagos. Right? We all know who Attorney Garagos is. The combination of those two, we believe, provide more than ample basis to set aside the result of the second trial, Garagos said at a briefing earlier this month. Now I'm trying to see, do I know if the habeas corpus was filed with the Supreme Court or with the District Court? Hold on. Okay, so it was filed with the county clerk, okay? County court, sorry. So they filed the petition there. Now, to my understanding, from what the DA just said, that habeas is, I guess, in processing, right? So they haven't done anything with that yet. Meantime, California has some type of new laws about sentencing that I told you about earlier, as well as apparently this DA has filed a motion for reconsideration, right? That's what you do when you want the judge to reconsider a sentence. We commonly hear the defense filing those, but the prosecutor could also file a motion for reconsideration to the to that county judge, right, and have him or her reconsider the sentence, right? Now it doesn't mean that they will accept it, but if you can detail rehabilitation and things of that nature, what I sometimes remind you that the court system is supposed to, well, I won't say the court system, I'll say punishment is supposed to include rehabilitation, right? Then that is what is supposed to, that's one of the objectives of it like that. And I think, that if he's resentenced over 300 people, I guess they were released and only 4 reoffend. I mean, I think that's pretty good odds, right? And if that is the case, it seems as if the judges in that particular area that's under his control. Well, I won't say control, but in his area of prosecution. If they allow that many people out, then they more than likely going to listen to him and let the brothers out. So, yeah. So that's very. I didn't know they were doing all that in California. I really didn't, right? I really didn't, but I'm not mad at it. I am not mad at it. I wish that that some of the other states would work as fast or that will be in favor of options like that more often than not, right? That all states don't operate like that, even though they have the power to. They always throw up a monkey wrench or some type of barrier in you assisting with the uh, freedom of others, right? And I told you a long time ago that prosecutors aren't always just there to lock your ass up, which is the, you know, that's the job. That's what the job calls for. They also have a responsibility to, as much as they are investigating or well, I mean, it's all investigated. I know y'all think the investigation stops there at the police station. No, it doesn't. It continues. As much as they are investigating to lock you up, they're also supposed to be investigating to see if possibly you could be innocent, right? That's where you get that Brady material, right? Brady material, it shows that, you know, the defendant, it could be exculpated, right? Exculpatory evidence. That's what we get. That's where the discovery comes into. Okay. So now this is so crazy, right? Was it yesterday or maybe the day before? But I had spoke on the fact that one of these credible outlets that I will, you know, I have no problem with repeating something from their state stations, right? I like to use those as resources. Said that all these documentaries, right, are leading to people getting locked up. And I just thought about something else, right? Like Mo just came in here and said, like the podcast and all these different things. It's all, it could be, you know, a stepping stone and leading to a lot of these people's freedom as well. Keeping the story going. I spoke about this, you know, several times, right, since we've been over here on YouTube, right? Several times. Because you have an intelligent movement, include like a little documentary or something. I see that, if I'm not mistaken, I know Sharon did one. I think the one, something she had put out, and I haven't been able to look at them. But I got the notifications after R. Kelly's daughter came out or what have you. She put something together, I believe, because it says part one, part two, part. So I'm assuming it's some kind of documentary, right? That type of stuff keeps stories fresh, right? These people have been working on this, I know, for several years. They've been working towards the freedom of those brothers since, I mean, forever, since I can remember. Okay, they've been working, so I was like, shoot, they gonna be straight. Okay, you know what I'm saying? I mean, listen, that they at least they would never have to worry about not having a honey bun. I know that much. So, you know, I find it very, you know, very interesting that you know, that all these documentaries are leading to people getting arrested. Because I told you how the game works, right? If ever we see anything that would tell us that we have somebody that's willing to cooperate, even if it comes in form of a documentary, and I know nobody in, you know, that were Kel supporters, you know, I know you guys wasn't in favor of the documentary. You thought the documentary violated his rights, this, that, there, and I try to tell you it didn't, but whatever. Okay. Um, But if we see somebody in a documentary and you're telling a story and you're saying that you got the evidence to back up what you say outside of your testimony, and I told you guys, testimony is a form of what? Evidence. Oh, um, somebody be out to talk to you. That's how it works, right? That's how it works. And that's not a violation of anyone's rights. Will it shape public opinion? Yeah. The question is, will it shape the opinion of someone on that jury? And if someone on that jury says, well, they are able to remain unbiased during their deliberation, then that's all the judge needs to hear. And when you're seating a jury, you have both sides have both strikes for cause and periphery strikes, right? So the voir dire process, which is the process of picking a jury, is very neutral, right? Now, of course, we do know that somebody can say one thing and do absolutely the opposite. Yep, we understand that. But also, that is the chance you take, and that's why it's more than just one person on the jury. That's why it's 12 in most cases, right? So, while the judicial system isn't perfect, I'm here to tell you that it's frustrating at times, right? It is probably, except for some of the inequalities that is statistic. Yeah, word again. Systemic. Sorry, I told you I got the swollen mouth. Systemic, from the history of our nation, right? Or pretty much of this world. It is a system that is more fair than it's not, and then a system that most of the times offers equal justice, right? Most of the time, not all of the time, just most of the time. And I'm taking it over on a national basis, right? I'm not talking about like no here, just or whatever, because if you sample it using, like 100 or less, whatever, of course the number is going to be higher. I'm talking about overall a larger territory. So, yeah. Um, yeah, so it's a lot. It's a lot going on, and I told you again. I do have the indictment of the Abercrombie and Fitch guy. It is sealed in New York, but somehow in Florida it isn't. And I had it before someone also sent it to me. So great, good looking out. But yeah, it's a lot going on in that indictment, honey. It's it's like 15 men. Hold on, let me tell you real quick. I got it right here. Let me tell you. And his charges are, let me tell you, count one is sex trafficking. Count 2 through 16 is interstate prostitution. Now, I don't know by the time if it gets unsealed in New York, will this be changed? But this indictment pretty much is what the news is speaking of, right? Because its elements in this indictment is exactly the same as what the news is speaking of, right? and it says count one. So count one is sex trafficking that occurred around December 2008 and March 2015. Okay. Counts 2 through 16, the same dates. So apparently they're charging on one count of sex trafficking for all 15 of these guys, and then they're going back and individually charging for each person. Yeah, when I look at it, because like, okay, John Doe number one that happened between 2008 to 2010. John Doe number two, 2008 to 2012. John Doe number three, 2009 to 2012. Four is 2009, 2000, from January to February of 2009. John Doe number five, 2010 to 2011. Number six is 2010 to 2012. Seven is 2010 to 2011. Eight is 2011. Nine is 2011 to 2010. 12, I'm sorry. 10 is 2011 to 2013. 11 is 2012 from March to June of 2012. John Doe number 12 is March 2012 to October 2012. Number 13 from May 2012 to March 2015. 14 September 2012 to November 2012. And 15 October 2012. October 2012, that's the only one. And yeah, so now what's his name? Michael Jeffries, he's out. That's the one whose face, I guess you see him plastered all over the news media. He's out on $10 million bond. Wow. The government wrote this letter. Hold on. I'll put it up. Wrote this letter. Says the government respectfully submits this letter. Am I up there? Oh, I ain't talking, nobody can hear me. Hold on. I need to see myself up here first. Okay, I'm up there. It says the government respectfully submits this letter in advance of the defendant's forthcoming arraignment before a magistrate judge in the Eastern District of New York at a date to be determined in support of its motion for the court to detain the defendant Matthew C. Smith pending trial and to impose significant secured bonds and appropriate conditions of release to reasonably assure the appearance of defendants Michael S. Jeffries and James T. Jacobson, also known as Jim Jake, Mrs. Cook, and Todd Jacobson in court, and to ensure the safety of the community. The government proffers the following facts regarding certain of the charged crimes, and proffer in this vein means that they're getting ready to explain that the evidence will show whatever they're getting ready to allege, right? Which is listed in this overview. from approximately 1992 to 2014, so on and so forth, right? So that's what proper means in this vein. They're talking about international sex trafficking. They spent millions of dollars to create a massive infrastructure that supported the operation, child. Um, So it says down here at the footnote, it says the proffer of facts set forth herein does not purport to provide a complete statement of all facts and evidence of which the government is aware or that it will seek to introduce at trial. So it's telling you what I just said, but in a fancy form, right? It's saying that proffer in this vein is meaning that they have um, the evidence will show whatever it's alleging in this particular document, for them to say that it's okay to give Mr. Michael Jeffries and the other guy a bond high enough, or, that will ensure that he will, be back to court or what have you, right? But with this other guy, they want him held without a bond. I don't know what he did. Hey, he must be really did it. Maybe some, obstruction going on. I don't know. I haven't read this. It says defendant used coercive, fraudulent, and deceptive tactics to coordinate a sprawling international sex trafficking and prostitution operation. Oh, they use honey. Oh, they use Viagra. Oh, pressure men to consume alcohol, Viagra, and muscle relaxants known as poppers during the sex events. What is going on with all this sex, child? Sex is locking you up. Let's see what it says. It says the evidence shows that the process by which Jeffries, Smith, and Jacobson recruited, hired, transported, maintained, and compensated men for commercial sex was highly coercive, as was the atmosphere at the actual sex events. For example, Jeffries, Smith, and Jacobson, and others acting at their direction employed a referral system and interview process that failed to inform men of the details of the sex events before they attended, caused men to believe that attending the sex events could yield modeling opportunities with Abercrombie or otherwise benefit their careers, physically groom men prior to sex events, include shaving the men's genitals, required men to relinquish their personal items, including clothing, wallets, phones, required men to sign non disclosure agreements, intentionally recruited heterosexual men, certain of whom were unwilling to engage in particular sex acts, including anal sex. Oh no! And insisted that men who previously stated they were unwilling to engage in particular sex acts, including anal sex, nonetheless engage in such acts during the sex events. Yeah, and like I said, pressure them to take Viagra and all of that. Oh, they said subject to all kinds of anal penetration and high pressure water animals. What? Let me see if they trying to hold him because they're gonna consider this his charges presumption. Hold on a minute. Okay, so they are saying that this particular charge is going to be a presumption case as well, right? So, which means I told you in this case, all right. Now, no, when it comes to the law, when it comes to someone getting indicted and all of that with the allegations listed on a charge sheet or an indictment, that you are presumed innocent until found guilty. That is what the law states. However, okay, when it comes to bail, a prosecutor, based on the charges, can say that, hey, the counts, the activities suggest that you are guilty. So that's what we call a presumption case. So, and it says right there, presumption of detention. And though that is the 18 USC section 3142, that is the charge that makes this a presumption case. So as it is subject to rebuttal by the person, it should be presumed that no condition or combination of conditions will reasonably assure the appearance of the person as required and the safety of the community if the judicial officer finds that there is probable cause to believe that the person committed an offense under Chapter 77 of this title, for which a maximum term of imprisonment of 20 years or more is prescribed. And so we just want to look at what is this penal code. They locking everybody up. Okay, so it's just the penal code for release and detention. It just spells out how they can um, make a argument for him being held without a a um, a bail. So I thought because sometimes they'll list like the penal code that will tell the judge, hey, due to this penal code, whether it be for sex trafficking, whether it be for just say murder or whatever, they'll say, hey, these penal codes suggest that we can say this is this defendant is more likely guilty than innocent, right? A lot of times people don't understand that when it comes to because what you've always heard, right? People are innocent until proven guilty, which is true. However, and one thing you gotta understand, with the law, especially on the prosecutorial side, the law is often written with a way to get out. Okay, to try to, I like to say, immediately um, circumvent the Constitution. Sometimes, if you think about it. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing because I believe this is a good thing because what was happening or had a potential to happen on a larger scale is that if like really dangerous people that could continue the life of crime or what they were alleged to be doing was getting out on bail or bond, and continually doing, the very thing that they were indicted on, right? And so they were like, So they came up with this presumption, right, back in the day and says, hey, we can ask the judge to presume that you're guilty. And you shall not be able to use bail or bond to continue your um, life of crime while you waiting to be sentenced to, saying that you can increase your victim count, right? You can continue with your alleged victimization. So they're like, that don't make no sense. And we're gonna write it real nice and real right for that to make sense to the judge and more importantly to the framers of the law, to the legislators, anybody. I mean, well, that's where it comes from, but to people that's in charge of legislation. That's what I meant to say. That, hey, this makes perfectly good sense. And we're going to write it up. And that's what it is. That is what it is. So I put some daily news on the last live I had earlier. That's just, it's out of control. It's out of control. Um, I can keep up. But anyway. So let me put the bill. Where the bill? Just saying. Trying to see exactly when it came out. I just want to know when that bill actually came out. This is crazy. I mean, they are a lot. And then Vince McMahon, he is in a civil lawsuit. Okay, Bail Reform Act of 1984. It was born in 1966 as well. But yeah, y'all, you gotta be careful, honey. So the DA did say that there were um, people in the office that just didn't. And here's what I can remember, right? You remember, like in the specials that came out. Remember when they did the movies about the killings and stuff like that? Remember how they were saying like they were out spending money, having a good time, and all of that. Y'all remember that? So when something like that hits the news, and yeah, like I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the daddy did. I don't know. We don't live with those people, and a family could look very normal on the outside and have a whole bunch of abnormalities on the inside, right? So we don't know. All I know is they kept fighting. You hear me? They kept fighting more than anybody ever seen. I'm like, when they had popped up all over my news feed, I'm like, what is going on with this? And they weren't letting it go. Yeah, and I'm like, where you get all that money from to afford Garagos all this long time? Okay, so let me tell you the results of the poll. And again, the poll is over here on the YouTube side. So So 10 votes, and it says, do you think that, I asked, do you think the Menendez brothers should be resentenced? 90% said, yeah, while 10% said no. So let me take a picture of that. By the time I close it out, it'll okay. All right, let me close it out. Listen, the other, so it's over, it's like 4,600 people and one in here, and so I know about 75 or 80 y'all on the Underground Railroad that we had to dig so y'all won't get in trouble. Oh Lord. Anyway, that's the inside joke. But we make it happen. Yeah. So the other folks, if y'all ever want to participate in the poll, it's on the YouTube side. Like I said, the other 75 or 80 of them, they know where the YouTube side is. The rest of y'all do not. So that's our channel by Angel on YouTube. So that way you participate in the poll. And then there's updates and stuff that I make on the YouTube side that doesn't get transposed to the Twitter side or the Facebook side. So it is what it is. Anyway, that being said, listen, y'all, I get out of here. That's 2 for today. So guess what? As I always say, make sure you do something good for yourself and somebody else. Make today a good day and tomorrow even better. Guess what, folks? I am out of here, and so are you.